Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be doing my Overwatch League Countdown Cup bracket prediction. This will be for the Asia region. Yesterday my North America bracket went up. Quick look at it there. But if you want to hear my thoughts on it and my reasons for picking what I did, I will link it in the description down below as well as in the cards so you can check it out there. Asia, little more interesting, I think. The bracket is very, very, very different from what we saw in North America. In North America, all the top teams are in the top four. Shock, Fusion, Eternal, Mayhem. They're the top four teams. In Asia, the bracket is way different. It is completely changed. It is completely bizarro mode. And I'm incredibly excited to see what happens in this region. As I did last time around when talking about the Asia region, I'm going to start from the bottom half, and then I'll move to the top half, just because the top half is a little more interesting this time around. And I think the bottom half is a little bit different, seeing as the matchups are kind of intriguing to look at. So we'll start with Chengdu Hunters against the London Spitfire. This is a very interesting one, and I've seen a lot of brackets already that have Chengdu going very, very far. My personal opinion is it's a little too early to predict Chengdu to go super far. Yes, they looked good in this most recent set of matches, but they also looked good when they were running a meta that I don't think you can run anymore. When they were running compositions, I don't think you can run really anymore because you have Arisa back and you have Mei back and you have Ana back, and I think that really shuts down a lot of what Chengdu is doing, running the Genji with the Ashe, with Wrecking Ball, Zarya, Mercy, Zen. I don't think that composition is going to be nearly as strong now. London is a very interesting team because they have looked incredibly up and down. They looked really good against Shanghai running that Chengdu composition, really struggled against Hangzhou the following week. It's been incredibly up and down, the performances for these two teams in particular, Chengdu and London. So I find this one incredibly difficult to pick because Chengdu has looked good with this one meta, but there's a question mark about whether or not they'll be able to run that meta. London, I think, has looked good at times, not so good at other times. They're much more inconsistent, I think, than Chengdu is. Chengdu, you know what you're going to get out of Chengdu for the most part, and when they're running compositions that work for them, it tends to go better. Because I think Chengdu will likely still run a variation of that composition we saw them running, and they're playing against a London team who is arguably the weakest team in the region, I do think Chengdu should be able to win this match. I don't know if I would say Chengdu has a chance of going deep into the bracket, but this match in particular, I think they can win because I think it fits more into their strengths as a team, because they're playing against the weaker competition. Hangzhou versus Seoul is interesting as well because the last time these two teams played was the Summer Showdown, if I'm not mistaken. Now, they may have played actually in the beginning of the Countdown Cup qualifiers, and I think Hangzhou may have won that match before then losing to Chengdu and then bouncing back and losing and sweeping the Spitfire. So I think this Spark actually did play the Seoul Dynasty, and they were victorious. Like I said, I could be wrong. I will double check as I am talking here. But this matchup is interesting to me because the Seoul Dynasty have looked their best in the tournaments so far this season, right? And I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I think there's a reason for that. Hangzhou and Seoul did play in the beginning of July, the beginning of the Countdown Cup qualifiers, July 18th. And it was a 3-0 for the Hangzhou Spark. So last time they played, it was a 3-0 for the Hangzhou Spark. But when these two teams have met in tournament play, which they've met in tournament play twice now, I believe, the Seoul Dynasty have completely obliterated the Hangzhou Spark. And I just think that is because the Seoul Dynasty are a different team when it comes to tournament play. They don't care about what happens in a regular season game. It doesn't really matter to them that much. But when they get into a tournament and there are wins on the line, there's money on the line, there are titles on the line, I think this Seoul Dynasty team takes it up to another level, another notch. I should think about it now. They played the London Spitfire, didn't they? Because New York played Hangzhou in the last tournament. So they didn't play in the last tournament, but Seoul have looked their best in tournament play. And I think the Seoul Dynasty are the team to look out for as a threat anytime a tournament comes around, because I think they are that good and they have the talent. And when it comes to a tournament, they tend to perform better, while the Spark, on the other hand, in the tournaments have tended to look their weakest. Now, what is of note now with this Hangzhou Spark team is that they have a new head coach, Pa Jian, former head coach of the Vancouver Titans. He was brought in earlier this season as an assistant coach. They have since moved on from their head coach Mask and have promoted Pa Jian to their head coach position now. I think that makes a big difference for this team. I think he will clearly bring another level of excellence, if you will, to this team. I think he is going to be a big part of boosting this Spark team and taking them to the next level. He has some incredible talent at his disposal with Gushui and QOQ and Architect and Godsby and IDK, Mika, Coldest. He has a lot of really great players. Even Bebe is a player who I think has started to show up a lot more this season recently, when he was having a bit of struggles earlier in the season. So this, to me, is the most difficult matchup to pick personally in this first round, because we have a revamped Spark roster and a Dynasty team that have performed their best in the tournaments, kind of hitting their peaks and meeting when they're playing. And I want to go the direction personally of the team that I think has shown more consistency in the tournaments, which is the Seoul Dynasty. They have looked better, in my opinion, in big matches, in tournament matches so far, than what we've seen from the Spark. I don't think it's unreasonable to think the Spark could win this series. They just had a very good win against the London Spitfire. And I think with Pa Jian as their head coach, their style of play is going to change. But the Seoul Dynasty, they are just the pain that they keep providing. They're just consistently the pain that they bring, where this team has so much potential, and they've looked really good at times, and then sometimes they look really bad, and you don't know, right? You got the 9-11 Spark, the 8-11 Dynasty. They're both so close together in record. I don't know what to make of these teams, but right now I am picking the Dynasty, as I think they have shown more in the tournaments, and I think that the recent Seoul Dynasty have not looked awful. Yes, they lost. Sorry about that. Yes, they lost some matches to Shanghai and New York recently, but I think overall they are still a very, very, very strong team. The 4-5 matchup is probably the best matchup of this quarterfinals round. The Guangzhou Charge taking on the NYXL. This is a tough one as well. Guangzhou did not look good when they played New York 2 weeks ago. I chalk most of that up, personally, to the meta. I thought New York looked a lot better and more comfortable on that meta. Rio did not really look super comfortable on the Wrecking Ball, whereas Mono looked incredibly proficient on the hero. Bianca, I think, added a level of play that was unique and different to what the NYXL had been seeing so far, and I think it kind of changed a lot of their play style. Maybe the Charge weren't expecting that. And I just think that the style of play that New York had that series was very good to enable Nene and enable Hoxall to be able to perform at a high level. So I think this one's really interesting to look at, because now Guangzhou is in the meta that is pretty much exact same meta that they won the Summer Showdown with, right? They have the Orisa, they have the Genji. That helps out a lot. Ana's back in the pool. That helps out a lot. So this matchup is very difficult for me to pick, because Guangzhou have shown more consistency so far this season. New York has been a little more up and down, especially against Shanghai and Guangzhou. And though they had the win recently, I think that the hero pools favor the Charge a lot more than they do New York. I think that Krong's Zarya isn't nearly as good as his Sigma, and I don't think that Bianca's Sigma is nearly as good as his Zarya. I think his Sigma still has some work to do. So when you can have your playmakers on some of their best heroes, I lean on Genji with Shu and Ana, with Krong, who is arguably Rookie of the Year, on the Sigma. I think that helps the Charge out a lot more. I think it'll be a competitive series. It should be a somewhat close series. but I'm going to give it to the Guangzhou Charge because I feel more confident in their meta picks this time around than I did against their most recent match against New York back in the Countdown Cup qualifiers 2 weeks ago. Shanghai Dragons, for me, will be taking on the Guangzhou Charge. I think this one could be very good. The Dragons looked good against New York. New York ran a very similar style of composition to what I would expect to see from Guangzhou, though New York seems to favor Winston more than anything else. New York ran some weird compositions as well when they were playing against Shanghai this past weekend, so it's a little difficult to say for sure what to make of those. But this, to me, is the matchup that determines who wins the tournament. The winner of this match, the winner of that side of the bracket in general, wins the tournament, I think. But this matchup in particular is the winner, because you have to think that Shanghai would want to play around their strengths, which is Lip on the Sombra and Fleta on the Tracer. His Genji has looked okay, hasn't looked incredible, but they've been looking better recently. Lip has been playing also some hit scan more often and more recently than we'd seen. They were choosing to go with DM for the most part on the Ashe in recent matches, but they went with Lip in this past match. And if Widowmaker's getting played, obviously you would have mostly Happy versus DM in that scenario. But I think with Ashe, I think they're going to try to stick with Lip. So I want to go with the Dragons for this one, just because I think that they have still looked very good, and the Charge, I think, are a little shaky right now. They're still very good, and I still think they are a championship caliber team. But right now, I think they're just a little bit shaky, and I would lean in the favor of the Dragons, so I think have looked a little less shaky, and they're your number one seed. They have a little more time to prepare and watch the teams play. Final semifinal is the Seoul Dynasty against the Chengdu Hunters, at least for me. I like Seoul in this one. I'll just say it right off the bat. Chengdu, I think, is good, but I don't think Chengdu's composition is going to likely be super good against the Seoul Dynasty, where I think Double Shield is their strongest composition, and I think it counters what Chengdu wants to run pretty heavily. I don't know exactly what we'll see from Seoul. I don't know if we'll see the Double Shield with Michelle in, or with Marvel in, or what. I really think this tournament's pretty unfair, to be completely honest with you. I feel like Shanghai are really just going to kind of run away with it no matter who they play, but I have doubts about Chengdu and their capabilities to go deep into this, just because I don't think the meta works for them super well. I haven't seen them play since the hero pools were, taken away and the full hero pool was restored. So this is a difficult one for me, but I am leaning towards the Seoul Dynasty because I think they have, like I said, they've had more consistent playoff performances or tournament performances, and for that reason alone, I am going with Seoul Dynasty. For the finals, I'm just going to say it straight up, Shanghai. I thought they were going to win last time around. They came short, but I still think that they are the best team in Asia. I think that they would have already gone through the gauntlet of having to either play Guangzhou or New York, that if they have to play Chengdu or Seoul, it's really no big deal for them. So for me, Shanghai wins this one. But we'll see what happens. My finals might be a little interesting. Some people probably disagree with me on this one, but Seoul just have looked better in the tournaments than any other time. And I still think there's some question marks surrounding Hangzhou and Chengdu with their recent coaching changes. Seoul have been inconsistent, but the thing that I think has been consistent is their play within the tournaments. So that is why I'm putting them in the finals, but I really don't think anybody can stand up to the Dragons in Asia, and I am going to pick the Dragons to win this tournament. I haven't picked it, if you're wondering, just because if I do, it takes me to Twitter, or it takes me to the next page where it wants me to tweet out my picks. So we'll get to that when we get to that, but this is my bracket for now, and that is where I stand with it. So let me know your thoughts on this video, your own bracket picks, whatever you want to say in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. I will, of course, do some brackets when the playoffs kick off, the regular season playoffs, or end of season playoffs, whatever you want to say, postseason kicks off. But for now, this is my bracket prediction for Asia going the way of the Shanghai Dragons over the Seoul Dynasty. If you, like I said, have any thoughts on it, comment down below. But that is where we're going to end this video off today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. But I'm going to get out of here for now. So until next time, hope you all have a great weekend. Hope you all enjoy the Countdown Cup. And I am going to get out of here. Bye-bye.